Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
What started on Saturday, August 24th, 2024, ends 150 days later on a Monday night, January 20th, 2025, with a national championship at stake in Atlanta, Georgia, between two standard bearers of the sport. It's Ohio State and Notre Dame. Tonight in a national championship game inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We welcome you to college football, today's edition of In-Game Live Game Day, your CFP National Championship special, live right here on SportsGrid. He is the mastermind of the college football pigskin. That is Joe Lisi. He is old K-Dubs. That is Kevin Walsh. And I am Ben Stevens. It's the Buckeyes and the Fighting Irish trying to win a national championship in the first ever 12-team college football playoff. And Lisi guy, as a wise man once told me,
this is what it's all about. You might have to call me Joe Walsh tonight because I tell you, I might give up my name for one night for the Fighting Irish, now catching 9.5 points across multiple books, plus 310 on the money line. It's going to be a very difficult matchup. Styles make fights. We saw this game play out in the regular season. Last year, Ohio State did pull out a 3-point victory. Last touchdown in the last few seconds of the game. What did Marcus Freeman, what did the team learn from that? But both of these teams have dynamic quarterbacks. Riley Leonard for Notre Dame, Will Howard on the other side for Ohio State. Ohio State has done a fantastic job dictating tempo, Kev, early on. We'll see how they could do it against the Notre Dame defense tonight.
Yeah, let's be very clear here, folks. Tonight, we get to watch a game play out, and we get to figure out, does Notre Dame win or does Ohio State win between 1 and 8 points? We've been doing this show for, I believe, 3 years now
correct,
as a trio. And in that time, Notre Dame has been an underdog in 8 games, right? 7-1 against the number. And that game against USC and Caleb Williams, I mean, listen, Caleb, known for some gutty efforts during his time with the Trojans, and he had one in that instance. Notre Dame was also great. There was some bad turnover luck. It is what it is. We've been talking about Notre Dame plus the points for a very long time. It is a tried and true system. One that I got to say, maybe my favorite thing about Ben Stevens is how early on he understood that Notre Dame plus the points was the real deal. It really is. It makes a difference. In fact, BSS, I got to give you credit, carried the flag when they played Georgia, when they played Penn State. You know, Was I copping out on that? It's not points. It's point.
Right.
Point and a half. Maybe I was. Not tonight. Not tonight. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish. We know they cover. The question is, Ben, do they win the national championship tonight?
A line opened up at 9.5 in favor of Ohio State. We are moments away from kick inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the ATL. The line is 8.5 in favor of the Buckeyes with a total of 45 and a hook. Before we get to the start of tonight's national title matchup, we will preview said national championship game, the X's and O's, the individuals that will impact the outcome, and then we are with you for every single second of the national championship game tonight to sweat out some bets and present those live wagering opportunities throughout the course of a national championship contest. Because, Kevin, as you alluded to, it is always Notre Dame plus the points, but it was only the Irish plus a point and maybe a half in that Orange Bowl matchup 2 Thursday nights ago in the college football playoff semifinal against Penn State. Notre Dame closing as an underdog and winning outright 27-24. The Buckeyes have been dominant throughout the college football playoff. So if it's Notre Dame plus the points, but also a national championship today for the Irish, how does Notre Dame stay within striking distance?
I think the Notre Dame rush attack is going to be excellent within this football game. I think it could very well be the difference maker. Make no bones about it. I expect Ohio State to play a really, really great game. I don't think this is going to look the way the most recent Ohio State games have during this run-up here, where they start incredibly quick with their pass attack. It's a lethal unit. They do go up against a tested secondary. We've seen them answer the bell time and time again. And I think Ohio State tonight is better off running the football. I did play an Ohio State team total of rushing yards through 132.5, but my best bet in this game, my absolute favorite wager, is Notre Dame's team total rushing yards over 123.5, a number they missed just twice during the regular season, a number that Notre Dame during this playoff run has been through. This is a team that averages well over 200 yards a game. Yeah. I understand Ohio State gives up under 100. But if we kind of do the math on that, that would put you around $150. They've shorted this number way, way too much here for especially a Notre Dame offense, Lisi, who gets Jeremiah Love back, I think, basically in full force.
Yeah,
this is do or die.
We're seeing it clearly. I believe that, and when you talk about physicality, right, in the games that Ohio State has played, Texas was physical from a defensive perspective, right? But offensive line, I actually thought the game plan with Sark, they didn't stick and get committed to the run more so. They put the game on Quinn Ewers' shoulders. He failed to step up, and they won that ball game by double digits. I believe Notre Dame is going to be committed to running the football. I did alt when you look at Jeremiah Love. He's got cheap numbers, 43.5, 44.5. I altered him as high as 100+. But Price as well. When you look at Price, the home run hitter, speed type of back, limited with carries last time they played Penn State, 7 carries, 13 yards. You look over the course of the last 4 or 5 games, he's gotten between 10 and 12 touches per game. So I think they're going to stay to the ground early, work off of play action. Another key for Notre Dame is this. Get Will Howard and get Ohio State into third down situations. Because if you want to make an assessment over the past couple of weeks, yes, offense has been dominant, but they have struggled in back-to-back games against Texas and Oregon. Even though they dominated them, only converted around 33% of third down opportunities. You put Will Howard into long third down situations. Now that front seven could get pressure. And we talk about turnover battle. 32 takeaways for Notre Dame. That is going to be the key tonight, Ben.
The most at the FBS level throughout this 2024 college football season, and 151 points off those 32 takeaways, including the game winner and the national championship clincher from Mitch Jeter in that CFP semifinal against Penn State. Notre Dame is seeking its first national championship since 1988. Ohio State looking for its first national championship since 2014. That was the first ever year of the college football playoff, beginning the 4-team era, now in the first year of the 12-team format of the CFP, the Buckeyes hunting down another national title. And Lisa, you mentioned Ohio State, a very strong start against Tennessee, Oregon, and early against Texas. The Buckeyes have not trailed in their opening 3 college football playoff games in this rendition. They are outscoring opponents by an average margin of 19.7 points per game. It is an Ohio State offensive arsenal, but it is just a total of 45 and a hook. how much scoring do we see tonight in Atlanta?
I think we see a ton of scoring, again, for a couple of reasons. If Notre Dame wins, and I believe they do, I think it's a high-scoring game because I do feel we get chunk plays. No matter who jumps up early, Ben, there is no tomorrow, right? You get up by 2 scores, it's never enough in terms of a championship game. We've seen turnovers in terms of national championships, changing the momentum, short fields, and that type of capacity. Yes, on a perfect, maybe regular season game, maybe we trend to the under. With these type of situations and rewards, national championship on the line, it's go big or go home. We've seen movement 46.5 down to 45.5. I altered it as high, plus 210. I think the number is at 50.5 plus.
Yeah, I think sometimes we get good chances to jump in. We are here to watch this game with you. We're here to bet this game with you as well. And we've seen some slow starts before, and the next thing you know, Lisi's rooting in the highest number he's got access to, right? That's how these games go. Just want to let people know some of the other action that I played. Jeremiah Love, longest rush over 12.5. Absolutely love the wager. We're on Notre Dame plus 8.5. Mentioned both team totals over the rushing yards. Will Howard to throw an interception. The teams that Will Howard did not throw a pick against is hilarious because it's atrocious teams, and then Oregon twice. Shout out Dan Lanning. And then also Ohio State over 3.5 team total punts. I think we will see some punting tonight. I mean, they're a Big Ten football team after all.
They are a Big Ten football team, that is for sure. Last year, Michigan, the arch rivals of Ohio State, won a national championship. The last time we had 2 schools from northern states win a national championship in 2 consecutive seasons. 1976, it was Pitt. 1977, it was who?
I assume it was the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
It was the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Moments away from kicking the national title game. Next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book. Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
We are just mere moments away from kicking tonight's national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. So now time to deliver those best bets for the national title matchup between the Fighting Irish and the Buckeyes. Kev, you gave yours right before the break. Lisi guy, now to you. How are you seeing this game? What are the best bets on that card?
I told you both Notre Dame running backs, Price and Love. I altered from 60 straight up to basically 80 for Price and then 100 for Love. I'm on anytime touchdown for Price over Love. did take Mitchell Evans. We talk about tight ends and how Ohio State has guarded them this year. Not very good. Even in the win against Penn State, Ty Warren, 4 receptions, 42 yards. The first loss to Oregon, Ferguson had 56 yards receiving. In the second victory in terms of the playoff, Ferguson 65 yards. And you talk about Nebraska, 55 yards out of their tight end. Mitchell Evans, we saw him break out with 58. I altered him to 60+. But anytime touchdown plus 310, I think is live.
You were all over Mitchell Evans in that college football playoff semifinal in the Orange Bowl in Miami against Penn State, over his receiving yards prop of 34.5 by the end of the opening possession. On October 6th, before Ohio State's opening matchup of the year in Eugene against Oregon, I bet the Buckeyes at a plus 290 price to win a national championship. Feeling pretty good about that number tonight. When the college football playoff bracket was unveiled, I like the path for the Fighting Irish. I bet Notre Dame at a plus 550 number to win a national title. So I sit rather pretty here on this Monday night, January 20th, to crown a national champion at the FBS level. I did bet Notre Dame at its open, plus 9.5. I believe the Fighting Irish defensively can keep this game within margin. I also bet Emeka Egbuka, one of the leading wide receivers for Ohio State, the veteran of that wide receiver room in Columbus, over 59.5 receiving yards. His number is closed at 62.5. Exactly 5 receptions for Egbuka in all 3 college football playoff games for Ohio State. At least 51 receiving yards in all 3 matchups so far in that CFP. Kev, you mentioned the Ohio State aerial attack that has been great with Will Howard. At least 280 yards in all 3 college football playoff games. Yeah. But Notre Dame is the best defense at turning opponents over in college football. Notre Dame in all 3 seasons under Marcus Freeman has been a top 5 passing defense this year, 3rd in the sport. What challenge do the Buckeyes present offensively for this Irish defense tonight?
So I think what Ohio State presents to any team they play, not just Notre Dame, is a wide receiver core that would very likely win the argument of most talented in college football. A player in Jeremiah Smith that probably would go first overall if he could enter the NFL draft this offseason, quarterback depending, right? Like would be number 1 on big boards, and not because of his age, because of how good he is at this exact moment. But for Ohio State, I think this is where they get into a weird spot a little bit, where my confidence for Notre Dame grows some. They want to be able to run the ball, and then they run into Michigan, and it's like, oh, we're going to smash them. And it's like, oh, no, you're not. You're not that tough. Like Ryan Day is very insecure about his team's toughness. That's a real thing, right? He's very insecure about it. So then they came out against Tennessee, be like, hey, throw it. And it worked gorge. It was gorge, right? Yeah. So then they go up against Oregon and Dan Lanning and that fraud secondary and that fraud defense and that fraud coach. They absolutely have no answers. So they light them on fire as well. And then they play Texas. And it started fast, and it kind of slowed down a little bit. They hit an explosive, but that offense, right? The Trevion Henderson screen pass, the Jack Sawyer scoop and score, that's half of their points within that football game. It kind of gives you an idea they weren't as dominant offensively. So now they enter this game. And Ryan Day's in arguments with Lou Holtz. I mean, he is. And he might want to prove how tough they're not that tough. They're not that tough. Say, all right, so we'll throw it every play. Whoops. Well, Howard's going to give me a couple. Yeah. If not, he might give me 3. I don't know. It's 10-1. I was looking at it, and I probably got to go place it. Will Howard this season did not throw interceptions against Akron, Western Michigan, Northwestern, Purdue, and Oregon both times. Shout out Dan Lanning. But, Will Howard will be turning the football over tonight. They will. And while I think running the ball is their best path to success, will they be able to run the ball consistently enough and in the right moments is a big question I have around Ohio State.
Yeah, I think it is. And again, to Kevin's point, on paper, they are a dominant team, right?
We know
5-star athletes across the board. Do they play down to the level of competition? Joe Walsh.
Wake this thing up.
Joe Walsh. I'm Joe Walsh. I'm family tonight.
Wake it up. Listen, I'll tell you this.
So we've seen them play down to the
level. We're going to get PSS on some other action. I don't like that Ohio State ticket. We need to cash out.
Yeah, all right.
But that's been in the pocket for a very long time.
Big Ten bad. Right, you got let me look at those drafts. What's in there? I don't know what's in that draft. You're going to have tweets about.
There's nothing in there right now.
He's got the tweet ready.
Here's the thing. We can set up the stage all we want.
We've seen Ohio State play down to the level of competition like Michigan and Nebraska. They can't do that tonight. They have to play their game up-tempo. They believe they have the better offense. They have to show it tonight.
Now, what do you expect first play?
Right. I think we're going to test them in the middle. Love right up the middle. There it is.
And it is Jeremiah Love to begin for Notre Dame and JT Tuimoloau there in the backfield. A huge opening half before an injury for that Buckeyes defense in that CFP semifinal against Texas. A sack and a half in the opening half against the Longhorns. Ohio State, best scoring defense in the sport this year. Teams not named Oregon have not scored more than 17 points against this defense coordinated by Jim Knowles. Notre Dame, third best scoring offense this year in college football, better than 39 points per game. The first time in more than 20 years the Fighting Irish have been a top 5 scoring offense nationally. We do see Riley Leonard plunge ahead for a few yards, making it third and short. The one thing we cannot deliver, the live betting odds, these tremendous reactions, and the energy for the national championship game, you bet your bottom dollar, is live play-by-play. We will try our best to contain that here on the desk. 3rd and 3, though, for Notre Dame on its opening offensive possession. Lisi, guy, you believe Notre Dame can win this football game outright. What do they need out of big number 13, the quarterback in Riley Leonard?
Don't turn the football over and do exactly what we're seeing. Maintain manageable third down situations, utilize the RPO game, take what they give you. They might have to work down the field. Just don't force the ball into double coverage. We'll be just fine. And Mitchell Evans, baby, find them.
Notre Dame moving the sticks. New left tackle tonight for the Irish, by the way. Charles Jogusaw in for the injured Anthony Knapp. Charles Jogusaw.
You better believe it. You never see me jog, I'll tell you
we
that.
got all the pronunciations and picks you could want. The national championship game has started in Atlanta.
Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
One of the weirdest nicknames I've heard in fighting. There's people have some strange nicknames at times, but the Lemon Killer. What do you even make of that? What is that about?
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna squeeze him like a lemon on the day we fight, and he's gonna pop.
Only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? See that guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We are underway at the national championship game tonight in Atlanta between Ohio State and Notre Dame. The Irish looking for that first national championship since 1988, nearly 4 decades ago. Ohio State won the first ever national championship in the 4-team college football playoff, hoping to repeat history tonight in the first ever 12-team format of the CFP. It is 4th and short for the Fighting Irish inside Ohio State territory on the opening possession of the game. Again, You will not hear play-by-play from us here on the desk, but we can recap what has happened, which was big number 13, I believe, Riley Leonard, moving the sticks again for the Fighting Irish. Rush attempts already for Riley Leonard. 4 carries, Kev, for 17 yards. Often throughout the college football playoff and, frankly, all season, when Notre Dame has needed something, they have turned to their quarterback, delivering so far in the national championship.
They have. Look, updated numbers, though. Ohio State's down to 6.5. Total's down to 43.5. I will never not give people good information. Ohio State at 6.5's got to be a very tempting number.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame is not even in scoring territory just yet with that first down, though we could have been behind because now they are in scoring territory.
Who is that? Oh, okay.
But at 6.5, you get under key numbers, right? No guarantee this drive results in points. It just, if you're an Ohio State backer, I'm not. This isn't really an Ohio State, laying the number type of desk right now. That's a decent number to look at. What you are seeing from Notre Dame is there's nothing for that Riley Leonard's run there.
Yeah.
And I felt that the first play of the game, to Jeremiah Love, it just felt like a huge overcommit of we have to get to the running back. Where now, does that adjust, right? Is there a moment in this where this defensive line over adjusts to Leonard? One other point. Riley Leonard has a decade in the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's a very talented defensive front.
Right.
I mean, is Sawyer right now not using his best pass rush move because he is so scared to not be playing the run?
Yeah.
Notre Dame is providing a lot of questions to this Ohio State front.
That Buckeyes front has been elite here in the 3 college football playoff matchups for that Ohio State defense. 16 total sacks in only 3 games. In 12 during the regular season, just 35 in total for Ohio State. In the first real pop on this desk for Jadarian Price, who breaks out to the left side and nears another first down for Notre Dame. Lisi, you said it as soon as we got into the studio tonight. You were targeting Notre Dame's backup running back, Jadarian Price. The number had dipped so drastically low at just 23.5 for a guy that's been a huge factor for the offense all season long. Sure, just 7 carries for 13 yards against the Nittany Lions in that CFP semifinal. 6 games before that, at least 32 yards, and still getting his fair share of the workload. Does there for the longest run tonight for Notre Dame.
Yeah, and you talk about running backs with vision. He's a little bit more elusive than Jeremiah Love. Both running backs have their assets. You talk about Love, a more physical runner. You saw it in terms of the goal line opportunity, the touchdown run against Penn State. You talk about Price. He's the guy that has the vision to catch the edge and just take it to the house. So, again, great change of pace. This is a fantastic drive. And this builds confidence not just for the offense, but for your defense now, knowing that you're coming out potentially with the first quarter lead.
And I will say, you guys mentioned it and how you were approaching this game. Of course, it is paramount for Notre Dame, a top 10 rushing offense all year long at FBS college football, to succeed on the ground tonight. Ohio State is basically a top 15 defensive unit in every category this season. They bow up when it matters most in the red zone. The fewest red zone touchdowns allowed, just 15 in total all year long. But they have not always stuffed the run of their opponent throughout this season. First matchup against the Ducks, Jordan James, 115 yards. Both running backs for Indiana, more than 60 yards on the ground. And, of course, Kev, in the loss to Michigan, it was Kalel Mullings. Big run after big run late, more than 110 on the ground.
And, again, I am not taking away from Ohio State, who has looked unreal. Against Tennessee, Dylan Sampson injured, barely played. Against Oregon, Jordan James injured, barely played. They were very good against Texas, against the run. I am not taking away from Ohio State. I am just saying that if the best MO to attack this defense is pounding the rock, they got good breaks against their first 2 opponents. Probably wouldn't have mattered. They were on pace to score 1,000 in both games. That's Notre Dame is presenting a challenge to them that they haven't seen probably since the Michigan game.
Negative 23 yards against the Ducks, 29 carries for only 58 yards. That was Texas, 2 yards per pop in the CFP semifinal. I will mention that the 2 Texas running backs combined for 11 grabs for more than 100 yards receiving and 2 scores, as Notre Dame now in Ohio State's red zone and trying to find Pater. Will the Irish find out after the break here on SportsGrid?
Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
One of the weirdest nicknames I've heard in fighting. There's people have some strange nicknames at times, but the Lemon Killer. What do you even make of that? What is that about?
I don't even know what that means, but I'm gonna squeeze him like a lemon on the day we fight, and he's gonna pop.
Only on SportsGrid.
What if he gets Kellen Moore? CS guy, right? He was like supposed to be the coach in waiting when he was the offensive coordinator. Is that enough? Like, does Jerry pull the trigger for that? Or does he pull the trigger for Dion?
Mike McCarthy would have not let this play out this way unless he had a job. So I think McCarthy already has the New Orleans job.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
A national championship game in Atlanta, and our first score of the night in the ATL. Riley Leonard powers through for Notre Dame. The Irish lead early, 7-0. A physical ground attack for Mike Denbrock and this Notre Dame offense gets the scoring started tonight in Atlanta. 18 play, 75-yard, 9-minute and 45-second touchdown drive. Lisi guy. Two conversions for Notre Dame on 3rd and 3 or shorter. 2 4th and 1 conversions for this Fighting Irish offense. And basically every time they needed a yard or a few, it was number 13 for Notre Dame, Riley Leonard, really the bell cow for the Irish on that opening drive.
Great offensive game plan, and they took the physicality to the Ohio State defense. I think when you look at the rushing attack, yes, at times there were a couple of runs where they ran Jeremiah Love to the sideline. They didn't get anywhere, right? The way you attack a very strong, athletic defense is that not on the perimeter. You do it right up the middle, right? The RPO power with the quarterback, Riley Leonard, right between the A and B gaps. They had great success up the middle in that front seven. Now, does Ohio State adjust? But again, when we talk about weaknesses, right, we talk about games where the Ohio State defense struggled in run support. It was Michigan. Michigan runs the same exact type of style with not a mobile quarterback, but with Mullings and Donovan Edwards. They attack them right up the middle, and that's what we saw. We saw Nebraska do that for 3.5 quarters before they could close the door. So again, right now, they have to make some adjustments. But again, physicality-wise, Notre Dame said, you know what? We're going to run it right down your throat. Come and stop us.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If we weren't on air, I'd be saying a lot of things right now. So I'm trying to find the words that I'm allowed to say.
Correct.
Because few things are more invigorating than your football team coming out there for 18 plays.
18 plays.
75 yards.
13 on the ground.
Yeah.
13 rush plays for Notre Dame, and they just took it to Ohio State.
When you're a dog and then play smash mouth football, right, you kind of just want to pick this desk up and snap it in half, which I'm pretty sure I could do right now.
That would be an AEW move.
Listen, I'm going to drop you through this thing on Sunday. That's all right, my brother.
Whoa! Family
Day,
enemies on Sunday.
Still college football.
I'm wearing the Commander stuff right now.
4.5 spread, 45.5 total.
Yeah.
What a drive now for Ohio State.
For sure.
Because
Pressure.
they come out, deep play action. Smith, 75. If you're Notre Dame, you go, now come on, brother. Like, we are exhausted. Please don't make us go back out there. On the other end, if you're Ohio State, right, 3 and out, all of a sudden you're going to think you're in South Bend with the way the crowd's going to sound. And your defense will be like, dude, no, man. Sure. No. We're not going back out there. Yeah. Put the backups out there. We need it. This is crazy. So what a drive this is for Ohio State, where, again, the Ohio State defense goes, look, at some point we will get stops. Let's be real. Notre Dame had to pick up multiple fourth downs on that drive in order to keep it alive. It was not a flawless drive. It was a fun drive.
Right.
But for Ohio State, if they go out there and score easily, that goes, we'll do this all night. So if you guys think you can score, good for you, but we're going to score every possession.
Because of the time that drive took, the total did not rise. If you were to tell us pregame, Notre Dame scored a touchdown on the opening offensive possession of the game, we would have thought, all right, pregame number 45 and a hook is now 48.5, 49.5, approaching 50. Lisi, it didn't move. It's still 45.5.
And I understand why. The time elapsed, right? It's like erosion. We talk about the bell curve in terms of the total. The middle point's 24. How are we going to get there with, if Ohio State gets 1 or 2 drives? Yeah. But as a backer, not in terms of just the rushing attack of both running backs, but the total, right? I'm actually happy that there was an 18-play drive, because the way I figure this game will play out is if Ohio State is going to dictate the tempo and run the football, that's okay, because I think chunk plays later. The Ohio State defense is out there for another 10 or 12-play drive. They're going to be ripping off 10 and 15-yard runs at a clip, and that's points as well.
We don't have on the broadcast, so we couldn't hear this update from Molly McGrath, which was, though, tweeted out, that Riley Leonard immediately ran to the sideline, threw up and stumbled to the bench area. And I don't think Riley was indulging in any pregame activities.
No, certainly.
That was a lot on him, that drive.
It was a lot on him. 9 carries for Notre Dame. We mentioned 13 runs in total for the Irish. The longest was Jadarian Price for 9 yards. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts and establishing that ground game for Mike Denbrock and the Irish. We are not hearing the broadcast as we are live in studio reacting to it in real time, but I did see the image of Leonard on the bench basically telling everybody, hey, I'm good. There was a play there when I ran the football and also kind of landed on the ball. That maybe gave him a little bit of a gut punch, and then again, a ton of usage on that opening drive. So how does Ohio State respond, Kev, in a position the Buckeyes have not been so far throughout the college football playoff? This is the first time Ohio State has trailed in the CFP. Again, entering tonight, they had outscored opponents in their first 3 games in the college football playoff, 111-52.
Yeah, so this is, and I'm being very serious, I think this is my specialty. I can't design a play, but I genuinely believe I have a good handle on if I should run or pass the ball. Like, I'm just saying, Birds, if you give me a call, we're going to button up some things. Ohio State very much so should be opening run here. You cannot let your first pass go incomplete. It is not worth it. Just, again, even if Notre Dame bows up and you don't get any yards, that's fine. Come out, run the football. Everybody needs to catch their breath. Again, while Notre Dame is again vomiting on the sideline right now, that offensive line, I know what it's like. Listen, in my high school glory days, to be like, we can smash this team. Those big boys are ready to get back out there.
Yeah.
First play, run play. Let's see what it is. We'll see what they do, but it should be a run play to start.
I wonder if they're going to utilize Will Howard in terms of his running
Henderson
ability.
Gets the start, by the way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Had the higher rushing yards prop by 2. However, Kevin, comparing the usage as we have done all year for Ohio State's 2 lead backs throughout the college football playoff, Trevion Henderson has been the leading rusher for that Ohio State offense, but with only 24 attempts, the much more explosive back as in comparison to Quinshon Judkins, 36 carries. So 12 more carries for Judkins in the first 3 college football playoff games and the 24 attempts for Trevion Henderson.
Yeah, that's been a tough thing to parse through. Now, you've been able to find some value within the backfield, though, because you could get some lower numbers. They both had some success throughout the CFP, but Henderson has looked better, which is interesting when you just go back to the preseason expectations of Judkins being a legitimate superstar, right? Where I think now as seasons close, Henderson's come out with the much higher stock of the 2 backs.
And he's been great as a part of the pass game, of course, the 75-yard screen pass with less than 15 seconds to end out the opening half in the Cotton Bowl against Texas. At least 20 receiving yards in the last 4 games for the Buckeyes. But a critical moment here on Ohio State's opening offensive possession, Joe. 3rd in 5 for the Buckeyes. As we have said, they need to maintain this possession to give the defense a rest and to stay out on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about their weakness, third downs. They pick it up, I think, right there with the completion to Jeremiah Smith. And now you have Will Howard at least with the butterflies gone, right? First drive, you get a first down, you settle the storm a little bit, and now you have to try and move the football. They did try to get their playmakers involved early. Travion Henderson with a good run to start. Again, now that they're in a rhythm, you got your first down. Now I think you could utilize a little tempo right here, see if you could challenge this defense over the top. Or is Notre Dame going to play more, I want to say, zone coverage and force Will Howard to work down the field? That'll be the matchup, Kev.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith now has as many catches as he did last week and more yards, which obviously I know was a big talking point. Not surprising to see him get the football here on this opening drive. But if you're Notre Dame defensively, right, so far you're fine.
Yeah.
You know, nothing crazy's happened. Smith pushed off a little bit on the pass. That's fine. They didn't call it. Again, if you're Notre Dame, you're in a what you did not want was an Ohio State play where you feel the gap, the assumed gap in talent, right? And because I just think that is some of this is about psyche, right? Notre Dame had a great psyche drive to open it up.
For sure.
Right now, things are at a level here. Make this team methodically get down the field.
It was a 4.5-point live spread in favor of Ohio State. Now it approaches a touchdown as Ohio State has the ball offensively in Atlanta in the national championship game.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book. Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
Well, that was a very fast opening quarter of the national championship game tonight inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium. After an 18 play that featured 13 rush attempts and 75-yard drive that soaked up 9 minutes and 45 seconds of the clock for the Fighting Irish, which resulted in a short Riley Leonard touchdown. Ohio State now possesses the football, diving into Notre Dame territory as well. We are at the end of our opening 15 minutes in Atlanta. Notre Dame ahead by a touchdown, 7-zip. But Lisi Guy, the live number, back to 6.5 in favor of the Buckeyes. That live total is the same as the pregame number, 45 and a hook. What were your initial takeaways for that opening quarter in the A?
Well, again, we talk about the dominance of the physicality of the Notre Dame offensive line. We'll see if they can continue that in terms of the second quarter with their second drive. But again, I still think the defensive approach isn't bad out of Notre Dame, forcing Ohio State to work down the field. They've limited chunk plays. Now, granted, the run by Travion Henderson was the biggest play they let up. But outside of that, still like the way they're playing. Offensively, this is going to be a game. I think both teams will be able to score points. I know we're not seeing it in terms of the market movement, 45.5, but I'm happy where I stand right now. I get a touchdown on this drive just from the total perspective. I think we're good. I think this game will open up in terms of taking shots after this drive, second quarter, third quarter, and obviously those halftime adjustments. I don't think we're going to see a lower scoring game because when they get the one score out of the belt, the first drive out of the way, and then we move on, we make adjustments.
So what I would say from Notre Dame, if there could be explosives, but there's nothing about that opening drive that they go, hey, listen, here's where we want to try and change some things. No. They're going to look to run the ball and hope eventually there goes Love, there goes Price, right? I do think it was interesting, though, how much time they had in the pocket. And if that's something they want to see if they can take advantage of. For Ohio State, it's been a very nice drive. Yeah. You know, the Jeremiah Smith forced touch. I don't say that negatively, but hey, we got to get him a touch. Didn't work out for negative 5-yard loss. They did well to get themselves ahead of the sticks for a third and manageable, and they managed it. But it is interesting. Like, you're on the field for your first drive. You have no points. You have no points, right? And the first quarter is over. Yeah. Ohio State had 14 points, I think, before Tennessee fans got their first beer.
21, yeah.
I mean, it was insane. So it's interesting now, the rhythm, right? Like, one thing you can see a lot of people are tweeting about is just like the commercials, right? Every commercial break is going to be 10 times longer. Yeah. Because that took 25 minutes of real time. Yeah. Right? Where Notre Dame doesn't need a rhythm for what they're doing. If anything, honestly, they just need time. Like, Riley Leonard now is not going to get on the field for a half hour. Yeah. But it'll be one drive later. Like, that's perfect. Where if you're Ohio State, there is going to be a little frustration if this game goes like this. Of, we can score on them every time, man. Get us out there. And your defense is just getting punched consistently.
I think it's a very fair point. And I also would question, what is that total going to be, assuming Ohio State gets some sort of points here? Obviously, a field goal and a touchdown varies by 4. But our live total is 45 and a hook at the end of an opening quarter. And Ohio State right now, after Will Howard converts, utilizing his legs, picking up 5 on the ground to move the sticks, is at the Irish 13-yard line. So I wonder what that number looks like if Ohio State gets a score, Joe. Certainly what that number would be if Ohio State does hit pay dirt as well.
I would say 47.5, 48. I honestly believe that. They kick a field goal, you might see it dip down to 43.5 just because of how much time has elapsed with the first drive, right? And if Ohio State's not going to score touchdowns and kick field goals, then I think that'll change the algorithm because they're expecting them as an 8.5-point favorite to dictate the tempo and obviously be the highest scoring team. Yeah. So, again, we'll see. It's a chess match right now, but I still like, in terms of the total, I'm happy. The fact that we got points from the first drive, doesn't matter the time, I'm happy with that.
There's no doubt about it, too, because Ohio State, the best scoring defense in college football, 10.7 points per game at the end of the regular season. Notre Dame, third best scoring defense in college football, 12.6 points per game at the end of the regular season. Only 5 FBS programs this year allowed fewer than 2 touchdowns per game on average, both squaring off in a national championship, which was why we saw that pregame number, 45 and a hook.
You think when Notre Dame ran directly towards the end zone, Sark was confused?
Yeah.
You think he was like, what's that all about?
That's a beautiful play design that results in a touchdown for the Ohio State outstanding and sensational true freshman wide receiver in Jeremiah Smith. A little bit of misdirection, and Smith hits Pater, despite career lows, and yes, it's only his first year in college football, but despite career lows in the Cotton Bowl against the Longhorns, just one grab for 3 yards, already 2 catches tonight, and another touch on the ground, and a touchdown, Kev, to get the scoring started for the Buckeyes.
That's a beautiful play that you are going to see copied everywhere next year.
Yeah.
I will tell you that. I hope Caleb Williams gets excited to run that play on the first game of next NFL season. That was really nicely done. Jeremiah's, tell you right now, the anytime touchdown scorer bettors are loving what they're seeing.
For sure.
Leonard and Smith, two of the more popular guys that you could get access to. Total goes up to 48.5. Spread goes up to 7.5. Odd spot for the spread to me, because if you grab Notre Dame, you have the football covering, and after a punt, you know you would still be covering regardless of that Buckeyes drive.
Yeah.
But I think if you're the books, we're not going to go to 6.5 with a tie game this early on. Each team's had one possession. It's a weird spot. If you didn't bet the spread pregame, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you are now running to go either way.
Although I do think it's interesting because I would argue the Irish scoring on their opening offensive possession of the game. We didn't know who was going to receive the opening kick, of course, pregame. Was not the expected outcome. Notre Dame to march down the field, 18 play, 75 yards against the best scoring defense in college football. So, Lisi, now examining where these live odds are. Ohio State back north as a touchdown favorite, 7.5 in the live spread. In the total, as you predicted, up by 3 points to 48.5. I do believe presents some bit of live wagering opportunity based on what we expected pregame and now what we are already seeing.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I still think 48.5 is light. So if you didn't get in at the pre-kick at 45.5, again, I'm expecting a game in the 50s. I'm expecting 30 to 24, 34-30. That's just me. I've seen title games blow through the number just because of teams, creating turnovers and, more importantly, keeping their foot on the gas. So we'll see how it plays out.
Notre Dame is minus 165 to punt on this drive.
Tied at 7-all in the national championship game. More here on SportsGrid next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York team has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
Right here on SportsGrid, the national championship game continues in Atlanta. We are tied at 7-all between Ohio State and Notre Dame, both teams scoring a touchdown on their opening offensive possession. As we have shared, the Buckeyes back to more than a touchdown favorite on that live spread. 7.5 in favor of Ohio State. number did get as low as 4.5 in favor of the Buckeyes after the Irish went right down the field in 18 plays, 13 on the ground to score that opening touchdown. Total up by 3 from our closing pregame number of 45 and a hook. It stands at 48 and a half. We've been talking about how we expect these offensive possessions to begin. And it's not just talking about it, but also betting it. Does Notre Dame look to be aggressive, or do they stick with what clearly worked on that opening drive, an attack on the ground? Lisi guy, to run for 1 yard or more for this Irish offense on their first play from scrimmage is minus 170. Do you buy into the chalk for how Notre Dame is going to start offensively?
I don't. I would take a shot on play action pass or a completed pass, which has great value. And the reason why I say that is Marcus Freeman and the offensive staff, right, for Notre Dame have done a great job of just game planning throughout the college football playoff. And in a game of this, you got to believe that Ohio State's going to make adjustments. Jim Knowles and that front seven try to take away the rushing attack, especially the RPO game of Riley Leonard. And that's where I think you could have a chunk play to start this drive, maybe get you over the 35, 40-yard line, and now you're cooking with fire. I would take a shot and then see where you get. If it's an incomplete pass, then you have the ability to run it on second down.
Yeah, I got to just say, man, we talked about how they're going to find their commercials.
Yeah, they found them.
All right, I don't remember.
This is, I mean, we're going touchdown, long commercial, kickoff, long commercial. I thought Riley Leonard was maybe feeling it a little bit more than he was after the report that he threw up after that opening touchdown drive and finding his way into pay dirt, because he was waiting on the bench for the kick to happen, slowly walking to the field, and then they go to commercial. I'm like, oh, that's why he wasn't on the turf with his team.
What's interesting, though, is, and I bring this up from a game flow perspective. I'm not even like, are we done with this now? Like, how much have we caught up? Because this is egregious what we've seen.
How many ad sales have we reached? Have we hit our money yet?
It sounds so ridiculous, but I'm being like, for sure. No, I know you are too. I know, like, I am curious, like, are we now like in a normal flow, or is the stoppage of every single thing here going to be monumental? I'm curious by that. Price out there to start the drive.
14-10 here for Notre Dame as they take over offensively on that second possession. Would have been an upset as Notre Dame does throw on that opening offensive play on their second drive of this national championship game. I believe for an incomplete pass, Lisi guy, it was plus 650.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought about it too. 40%.
That was odd, though, that the incompletion was higher than the completion, right?
No, it's not. That's how it always is.
Yeah, but that by that much, 650 to 3.
I'm just like, yes. It is always a monster gap,
especially designed first play when you've been sitting on the bench for a little bit of time. A couple of guys with some Notre Dame tickets and some Jadari on price numbers looked like he was going to break outside to pick up a chunk on the ground, a false start penalty on Notre Dame. Bo Collins, who did not play much against Penn State, seemingly flagged for that penalty.
You got to throw if you're Notre Dame. You're 2nd and 15, and not, hey, let's try that again. You're begging to be in 3rd and 13. That's a losing scenario. Again, screen pass.
Come on,
they're
Ken
fine.
Brock.
Swing pass. I'm not saying you need to take a deep shot. I know what Joe wants, right? Joe right now.
No, I want the tight end.
I want Mitch Evans.
You want your
Eli Raritan, the backup tight end, receiving a reception on that opening drive for Notre Dame. I do have Bo Collins, who was not healthy against Penn State, kind of banged up against Georgia in the second half as well, to go over a minimal prop of 10.5.
Wow.
That was a completion from Riley Leonard, but some more yellow laundry on the field. And that was Bo Collins on 2nd and 15.
Big bad Bo.
Could that have been over 10.5 yards? We await for what the penalty discussion is out of the Zebras on the field here for Notre Dame. A hold on the Irish offensively, which will move Notre Dame back even more so. 2nd and 25, I believe, upcoming for that Notre Dame offense.
Yeah, instead of 3rd and 2, which is essentially at this point a first down, that's an atrocious call.
Oh.
It is an atrocious call. Listen, and I say this as an ally, you're 350 pounds. We don't flop, all right? Have a little bit of pride at 91 on Ohio State. And now you're 2nd and 25. It looks like quarterback power again for Notre Dame. This is a tough spot to be in.
A good acting job by Tyleik Williams, but Notre Dame well behind the sticks. We continue on SportsGrid next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
Live right here on College Football, today's rendition of in-game live game day for the CFP National Championship. A couple of costly penalties against the Fighting Irish in their second offensive possession means a punt back to Ohio State, a penalty on the Buckeyes in terms of that punt return, and now Ohio State will start from its own 24-yard line. Still tied at 7-all, 12 minutes and 21 seconds remain in the opening half, and of course, as we change possession, a commercial break at the National Championship. Ohio State back up to a live 9.5-point favorite. Total has dropped back down to that closing pregame number of 45 and a hook. Lisi, are you surprised by that Buckeyes defensive stop on Notre Dame's second drive to see the line swing that far in favor of Ohio State, now nearly a double-digit favorite and laying more points than they were pregame?
No, because, again, it was a dominant stop in the sense of penalties obviously put them back. That allowed Ohio State, from a third down perspective, to get off the field. And now the algorithm, the way it calculates in terms of 9.5 total, is that we're going to get points to some capacity on this drive from the Ohio State offense, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown. And then that's why you're seeing the 9.5s now, right? The momentum is now switched, and the algo's building in it. I still believe Notre Dame is live. I think if you haven't bet Notre Dame and you're looking from it from a money line perspective, plus 390 has great value right here, right now. And the total, again, sitting flat at pregame, I'm not concerned. Again, I have 14 points. I sat on this desk with basically 9 points. We're coming to halftime on the same type of total with Ohio's Penn State and Notre Dame, and we still got, would we get 51 points? Mm-hmm. So to have 14 at this point in the second quarter, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. Just so people know, use FanDuel to make it easy, consistency. It's 10.5 on DraftKings.
Interesting.
That's a little stunning to me.
That's a big difference, too.
It's a tie football game. I understand Ohio State has the ball. If it resulted in a touchdown, sure. I'm not following that big of a movement here. It's a little tempting for me. I have enough pre-kick that I don't feel the need to get in. But I would, as I said, I thought the 6.5 was a really nice number for Ohio State fans who wanted to back that spot. I think you're seeing a very nice Notre Dame number. You're also, if you're someone who likes to middle, minus 6.5 and plus 10.5 is not a, you could be
for sure
kind of pretty clean on a situation like that. one of the reasons I am not running to the 10.5, besides from my pregame action, is Notre Dame's defense doesn't have a stop yet.
Right.
It only has the one possession, and we're not there yet, right? Where it's like, oh no, listen, we've seen them stop them, or they're due for a stop. We're not there yet. Will Howard, Ben, didn't have an incomplete pass on the opening drive.
And only once this year has Will Howard had more than 10 incompletions in a game. It was that disastrous loss to Michigan. Opening play for Ohio State offensively and a first down immediately. I could not tell if that was a quick pass.
It was a run.
A run to Emeka Egbuka. Not ideal for a guy that is looking for over 59.5 out of Egbuka, but that was on the ground and not through the air. But Ohio State, another first down on their first play of their second possession. 1st and 10 for the Buckeyes, under 12 minutes remaining here in the opening half. And Ohio State now, even on FanDuel, a double-digit live favorite of 10.5 points. That was a pass completed to Carnell Tate, who was the leading receiver, Lisi guy, in that Cotton Bowl semifinal. 7 grabs, 87 yards against Texas.
Yeah, and it's the right offensive play call by Chip Kelly because now the game's back to even. Your quarterback got into a rhythm, right? They weathered the storm, per se, and now you have an opportunity to really put your foot on the gas and extend, right? That's what you want to do with the better offense in terms of the more explosive offense. Put the pressure on Riley Leonard and Notre Dame to trail from behind. We'll see if they can do that. Again, I expect Marcus Freeman especially to maybe sell out here in terms of some blitz packages, run blitzes, and really shut them down, get them into long third downs. And again, winning on first down is critical. If you're Notre Dame now, the ball's past midfield, we have to sell out a little bit, right? We have to get Will Howard in that offense. 3rd and 12, 3rd and 8. Anything under 3rd and 5, most likely, right? They're going to go for it if it's a 4th and 2, and now you're in positive field position. So that's the chess match going on right now.
I thought something the Fighting Irish did incredibly well against Georgia was taking the fight to that Georgia offensive line, which is not normally something that UGA had done to its opponents in the last 3 college football seasons. 4 sacks, 9 tackles for loss in that victory in the Sugar Bowl quarterfinal matchup against UGA. Kev, only 1 sack and 2 TFLs against Penn State, and the Nittany Lions did rush for more than 200 yards. That slightly skewed. Both Nick Singleton and Katron Allen over 80 yards in terms of the ground in the Orange Bowl, but only 4.9 yards per pop.
I just want to say, 12.5 and 5-1 on the money line.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look away right now because that means that they're going to pick this up. So I'm going to need you to do me a favor. It's not your fault, but I'm going to need you to switch your tabs around.
Okay,
please. I understand what we're doing, but we can't do it
of the
fully.
I got you.
Especially critical moments. 3rd and 5 here from Notre Dame's 43-yard line. Ohio State's second offensive drive already in to Irish territory. We'll see if we will follow the odds.
Yeah.
And this was what I was expecting Will Howard to do against Texas, a mobile quarterback who was not often called his own number this year, picking up a couple of first downs early, Kev, in this opening half, utilizing those legs.
Yeah, probably 9.5. He's 2 for 16. Obviously, in college, you're nowhere near through the door on that number, but you're off to a very good start on the number there. That is a very tough sequence there for Notre Dame's defense. First play, you sent a great blitz.
Yeah.
If it was a pass, it probably would have been a real, good play for you. Instead, Henderson made 3 guys miss for a 2-yard gain, right? Then they get the ball out to Egbuka in space, make a nice tackle, and they still picked up a yard or so.
Yeah.
And then you cover up everything, and Howard just makes a play with his legs there, and it's very tough. It's tough. This is the type of – that's a great hit there. It's a very tough offense to go against, and you had a few plays where you were excellent for 80% of the play, and it didn't go your way, right? The Henderson play wasn't a negative play. It was a gain. The 3rd down, attempted pass was a run for a big gainer as well.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very tough defensive sequence there for Notre Dame.
It's interesting now. He's got time, Will Howard, right?
Yes.
So,
it's a great point.
Right now, what do you do if you're Notre Dame, assuming they're down 7, right? Do you come out? I'm thinking ahead, right? Do they run the football or do they utilize Riley Leonard in the passing attack? That is because let's not forget, you're going to have to come away with points, assuming they give up a touchdown. We're looking 14-7. Ohio State gets the ball at the start of the 3rd quarter.
They do.
You have to be very concerned if you're a Notre Dame backer, or more importantly, Freeman and Denbrock offensively. We have to be ultra aggressive. This ball is across midfield, and it's a 4th and 2. I'm going for it. I have to steal points before halftime.
Yeah, they're going to want to score. But what they're not going to do, just saying, is they're not going to be running tempo at all. And they're not going to, I'll tell you this, because I'm probably going to bet it, I'm going to let this drive finish. The minus 160 first play run for a yard or one or more is only a loser if it's a run for negative yards. Last drive, first play, incomplete pass, put them behind the sticks.
Yeah.
They are not going to do that again. The opening drive, they ran it 13 times. The second drive, they ran it one time. They will not allow that to be the case once again. I'm not, you're right, they're going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
No,
but
yeah.
they're going to take their time. Like, you are very much live for a situation, if Notre Dame's next drive is successful, to play 2 quarters of football where each team gets a drive a quarter, which would be nuts,
right.
But that's where we are.
But as a Notre Dame backer, are you worried right now? I'm not. And I think the value in the market, like I said, if you're going to get 5-1 or anything greater than that in terms of the market, but that's my point.
Yeah.
Like, double digits and is great. It's not bad.
We continue our national championship coverage next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
No look. Live right here on SportsGrid, our national championship coverage as Ohio State nears the end zone once again against Notre Dame. 3rd and 2, and a lot of times here. Will Howard utilizing those legs on 3rd and short to pick up a new set of downs as he does. The Buckeyes inside Notre Dame's 10-yard line, Joe, I believe, down to that Notre Dame 8.
Yeah, again, it's a quality drive. We talk about Will Howard having time, staying in manageable 3rd downs. They are able to pick it up. And again, we'll see if they can convert. What do you get out of Notre Dame's defense? They played very good red zone defense throughout the college football playoff. Have to do it again and hold them to a field goal.
That should have been a winning play for Notre Dame. The guard didn't get through clean, and instead they're not tackling well. The linebackers aren't playing well, and Ohio State just put up another touchdown, this one for Quinshon Judkins, so an extra point away from a 7-point lead, and now Notre Dame with a very, very important drive. Here's the thing for the Notre Dame upcoming drive, and we'll get you the updated numbers in a moment, right? Man, we'd love to carbon copy what we did to start the game.
Yeah.
You're 3 minutes short of that. More than 3 minutes, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the time that you have available to you now if you are Notre Dame. Not that they have to run tempo, but it's not going to be that, right? Notre Dame really could use an explosive on this next drive here. For Ohio State, look, one thing for these teams right now, third and manageable, really manageable.
Yes.
The only reason that Notre Dame was ultimately off the field, if we're maybe they would have got a stop, was a holding penalty.
Yeah.
The only thing that has gotten any stops in this game was the penalty.
Even after the illegal procedure, the false start, Notre Dame did connect. It was Riley Leonard to Bo Collins for about 13, 14 yards. It would have been third and short, as we saw numerous times on the opening drive of the game for the Fighting Irish. Notre Dame was able to convert. Now, I do want to ask you something, because as Ohio State was just inside the red zone against the Irish before we got to that commercial break, it was a live 13.5-point spread in favor of the Buckeyes. I asked you both. That assumes that Ohio State is going to pay off this drive with a touchdown. You both said yes. It seems certainly wise. Quinshon Judkins scores, and that number is now north of 2 touchdowns. Ohio State, a live 14.5-point favorite. Is it worth it, Lisi Guy, to bite back in on the Irish now getting more than 2 touchdowns?
I think it is, again, because the Algo, though, doesn't believe that. I'll just say that right here. The Algo is expecting a blowout by Ohio State. They're handing you 14.5, 2 touchdowns. Think about this. I mean, they're up 7 right now, right? So 21-7, you're still covering for Notre Dame, and they're willing to give that extra half. They're expecting now Ohio State to run away with that. What do you get out of this drive? It's going to be critical. Can they cut this deficit to either 14-10, or could we be tied 14 up? If it's 14 up and they get this touchdown on this drive, this total will probably jump to 53.5, and we'll see the in-game back to probably about 7.5, Kev, right? I mean, that's the way the Algo would adjust. If Notre Dame comes right down in 5 plays, 80 yards, scores a touchdown, it'll be right back down to 6.5. But they're giving you those 2 touchdowns because they just don't believe they can do it.
Yeah, I think the number is a massive fade of the Notre Dame offense, because the idea is Ohio State up 7, will score again before the half, and then will start the second half with the football.
Correct.
That is where the books are at right now on this number, and I do get it, right? I'm not going to say I don't get it, right? Notre Dame, well, look, I love that Notre Dame offensive drive to start the game. I didn't say that was like, oh, they'll do that every time.
Right.
That's much, that's a very difficult thing to do. So, again, can Notre Dame hit an explosive, right? The longest run is still, 9 yards?
9 yards, yeah.
The passes are not 20-plus yet. There's nothing like, so there's no explosive yet for Notre Dame to make it a little bit easier on yourself. That's the really big thing with this drive.
Yeah.
What I think is interesting, I'm trying to figure this out. So you're at 48.5, right? Where are you at that you would be upset with an over bet? What would have to happen for you to be upset with the over? Like, obviously, nobody scores would be upsetting, but it's not the worst thing.
No, you're still happy with that. The fact that I got 3 total touchdowns in the game in the first half on
4 total drives.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, as a total backer and having this as altered as high as 50.5, I'm happy. I'm happy. Again, I'm assuming we'll get a Notre Dame score, whether it be a touchdown or a field goal. Yeah. And maybe with 2 minutes left, we get a 2-minute drill out of Ohio State. I am sitting on a money line ticket with Notre Dame, and you talk about an 8-1. 8-1 is, it's almost triple the value that I have at plus 310.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And listen, the Irish scored on their opening offensive possession of the game. They hindered themselves on that second drive, but still moved the football pretty well. I'll tell you what I did. I did double down on Notre Dame, catching 14.5 points. I believe the Irish can keep this game within a single score. That was my thought entering. I still believe in Notre Dame based on what I've seen, keeping this game within 2 touchdowns. And then just quickly, I did bet Notre Dame minus 180 for a run of 1 yard or more to open up this third offensive possession.
I took, before the game started, I took 130 to 1, one passing, one rushing touchdown for each team each half. So Notre Dame got one rushing touchdown. Ohio State got the passing touchdown and the rushing touchdown.
You've checked 3 of 8 boxes.
Yes. Right. I need
you need Riley Leonard.
Riley Leonard through the air to keep this going.
And I do believe they will be aggressive, right? Even me betting right now, Notre Dame 1+ rushing yard to start off this third offensive possession. I still expect an aerial attack. LeBron James was just cited in Atlanta in his Ohio State regalia. Of course, the native of Akron, a longtime backer of those Buckeyes.
Yeah, no, but he's also
Does it bother you?
Man.
No.
What a guy to do?
Let it slide. You let it slide.
I think he kind of showed up just to send you a reminder that you know, you were talking a little tough around his name. We heard that.
Wow.
You remember that. Always calculated. Don't worry about it.
It's in the data bank.
Yeah, that's all it is, really. That's all there is.
Red,
I actually have a LeBron James Ohio State football jersey.
That's pretty sick.
One of my favorite things I own. Because everybody who sees it, for the most part, is like, I hate you.
And a LeBron James Space Jam Christmas ornament.
That's not enough people talk about
Not enough people talk about it. Someone consider that unique and a true fan only. Riley Leonard, by the way, utilizing his legs once more, picking up 5 on first down, cashing that -180 bet that I made for the first offensive drive or first offensive play of that third offensive drive. 3rd and 5 for Notre Dame after some more pressure from JT Tuimoloau on Riley Leonard. Will Notre Dame move the sticks? We'll tell you next on SportsGrid.
Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time, and I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
That third offensive possession, not beneficial for Notre Dame. On 3rd and 5, trying to get the play off before the play clock hit 0. Mitchell Evans, the tight end for the Irish, on a delayed motion, got in front of the snap. Notre Dame did fall on it, but it did result in a punt. So Ohio State, once again, 3rd and short, inside its own territory as we tickle down's not the word, as we trick down under 4 minutes here remaining in the opening half.
For Notre Dame, I really didn't like the pass play on 2nd and 5. It was nearly a sack. They were lucky it was just incomplete. The reason I didn't like the pass on 2nd and 5 is it wasn't 4-down territory. So that 3rd and 5 call was likely a run. If you picked up 3 yards, were you really ready to go? And that's just terrible defense. You hit the quarterback, and a kid's wide open. That is terrible defense now. Notre Dame hasn't forced an incomplete pass yet.
No.
Of a quarterback that nobody thinks is this good.
No.
Come on now.
No, I told you, offensive line for Ohio State has made adjustments. They're all of a sudden protecting Will Howard. 3rd downs, they're converting. I mean, they send blitz up the middle and wide open on the other. They're not covering the corners, I could tell you that right now.
Yeah, I mean, Tua just got juked out of his shoes, quite frankly.
Brandon Inniss makes his first appearance in the national championship game. 19 yards for Ohio State. And a first down on 3rd and 7. Still in Buckeyes territory at their own 42-yard line with under 3 minutes remaining now in the opening half. Guys, I think we can all say here it is critically important for Notre Dame to make a stop on this defensive possession to head into the half, more than likely only down by a single score.
Absolutely. You want to get off the field on 3rd downs. You want to stop the bleeding and stop the momentum. They had it after the first drive. They don't have it now. And right now, we've seen Marcus Freeman. The one thing that they have done a good job of is make second-half adjustments. We'll see what they could dial up. But you give Notre Dame a shot still. When you look at the line, it's 16.5 and 9-1. You got to get off the field. And even at worst, you're holding to a field goal on this drive. You're still within striking distance.
It is difficult to provide pressure on Will Howard. He has only been sacked 12 times in 15 total games this year, twice by Texas in the college football playoff semifinal. Neither in the first 2 games, sacked in neither of them by Oregon or Tennessee. As we hit the 2-minute timeout here in the opening half, Ohio State ahead 14-7 in the national championship, looking for its first in a decade since the first ever college football playoff began back in 2014. Notre Dame seeking its first national championship since 1988. Live 16.5-point spread, Kev, in favor of the Buckeyes. Live total 47 and a hook. How much do you think can change in the final 2 minutes of this opening half based on these live numbers right now?
I mean, I would say massive.
Yeah.
It's a 3rd and 7. It's a clear punt situation. I think Ohio State is only going for it at 4th and 2 and a short 2. I understand aggressiveness. The Notre Dame offense is now all of a sudden hurting itself, right? You have your timeouts, so you could get a 3 and out again and potentially get a punt back, and you'd have plenty of time to go and score. You start the second half with a football. But what that means is, for me, unless Ohio State does pick up a clean 7 yards, which they're obviously capable of, right, this is going to be a punt. Which then would say the most likely outcome is a team currently laying 16.5 live. It's up 7 at the break.
Yeah.
That's monstrous, right? What I would just say quickly on the Notre Dame offense, they've ran the football twice since the first drive. 3 times because the fumble counts as a run, but that's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've run the football 2 times. Hey, what's going on? That can't be, right? I know some of that is situational. I understand that, but if you are Notre Dame, some of that is also self-inflicted. Twice since the opening possession, they've decided to throw where I thought a run would have made a lot more sense, and I think they've let Ohio State way off the hook after the opening drive.
And listen, we talk about the betting odds, of course, here, and we talk about Notre Dame keeping this game within margin, and we talk about the Fighting Irish plus the points as always. But those on the turf right now in Atlanta, in this Irish football program, are not thinking about covering a margin more than likely tonight. They are trying to win a national championship outright in an upset over Ohio State. And, Lisi, I think from the Notre Dame perspective, early there, it was important to dictate tempo, and they did that sensationally well on that opening drive.
Yeah, and then now you have to maintain and regain the momentum. That has and falls on your defense right now. You've been a great third-down defense in one of the tops in the country all year long. Now you have the ability to get your offense the football back before half. It starts right here, Ben.
A critical third-down play for Ohio State and Notre Dame at the other side of the 2-minute timeout. We're back on SportsGrid next.
Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
This guy Ovechkin, how he was injured and missed all that time, and the fact that he's still on pace to pass Gretzky.
I think everybody's rooting for Ovechkin at this point in time. And I think he'll do it as well. So it's a feat that no one ever thought Scotty would be broken. It's going to be broken, and it's probably going to be broken because, he's not going to stop shooting.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The top of a new hour here on SportsGrid, but only 1 minute and 25 seconds remain in the opening half of tonight's national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. Joe Lisi, Kevin Walsh, and Ben Stevens for a critical juncture of tonight's national title tilt in Atlanta. Ohio State was able to convert on a 3rd and long, a connection from Will Howard to Carnell Tate, and another first down picked up by Ohio State's offense, this time from Howard to Jeremiah Smith through the air. Will Howard has been perfect in this opening half. That is not hyperbole. Will Howard is 13 of 13 for 138 yards and a touchdown. Lisi guy, his closing passing yards prop, 241.5. He is more than halfway there, still with over 60 seconds remaining here in the first half.
They're bringing pressure, Notre Dame, and the offensive line is holding up. He has eons, light years to throw this football. So that's the thing. He's very good in terms of finding the open receiver. Corner's a little bit weak, given way too much cushion right now for Ohio State. And right now they're making plays. So we'll see what happens.
Oof, that was close. A toss-up between one of the best defensive backs, maybe the best safety in the sport in Notre Dame, Xavier Watts, battling for a ball with Ohio State's running back Travion Henderson. That looked like one was going to have a pick, the other a reception inside the Irish's 10-yard line. Kevin does fall to the turf. It felt like for a moment a Notre Dame defense that has forced 32 takeaways, the most in FBS college football this year, might get number 33.
Yeah, they sure could have used it, man. It has been a very frustrating drive here. The 3rd and 7 pickup is so unacceptable. A 20-yard pass down the field. Will Howard is abusing this team. And, I've not been as critical of Will Howard as others. But I certainly don't think that Will Howard is the best quarterback in college football. He looks nothing short of that to open this game.
He does.
2nd and 13 after you make a nice defensive play. They don't even get to a 3rd manageable. They just immediately pick it up. Howard then again, after you get that near interception, 2nd and long, I'll just run it with my leg. It's very difficult right now for Notre Dame. You've not forced a punt. You've not forced a 4th down in this football game. So it's very, very difficult here. And they start the second half with the football. It's a very tough spot,
It is a tough spot, but again, you still got to believe that they can make some adjustments. And you're right. Will Howard's played flawless. I mean, 13 of 14 for basically 138 yards. He's averaged almost 10 yards per pass play. I mean, that's a first downer, and every time he throws the football. So.
He himself has run for 4 first downs in his 6 carries in total, and a couple of times tripped up behind the line of scrimmage. That will go down as sacks and obviously hinder his rushing yards total, but not necessarily a ton of pressure in Will Howard's face. A flag on the field here with just 30 seconds left in this first half. A stoppage of play, second time out for Ohio State, so not a penalty, I believe. The Buckeyes have 1 timeout remaining here in this opening half. 30 seconds left, and they are where? At the Notre Dame 10-yard line? Inside the 10-yard line.
Inside the 10.
At this moment. 2 timeouts left for the Irish as well. It is critical for Notre Dame to try to hold them to less than a touchdown here. A field goal or a turnover would go a large, large way. Live total back up to 48.5, Lisi Guy. That spread 18 and a hook in favor of the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I mean, out of both of those, I like the total 48.5 because even if you don't believe Notre Dame's going to win the game, they're going to try and score points, right? So they have to be aggressive from an offensive perspective, assuming they're down 21-7. And, you know, you got to believe that they can come out of the half, make a 3 and out, get the football back, and then try to cut this deficit to 21-14. And I still think we trend way over the 48.5. I don't think we're done scoring. But at the end of the day, if you're going to back Notre Dame plus the 18.5 right here, right now, your offense has to bail you out, right? They haven't made adjustments outside that first drive. Coming out of the half, expect more explosive plays, hopefully, for Notre Dame and their offense.
Notre Dame has been great at the end of the opening halves in their last 2 games. In the Orange Bowl against Penn State, to register a field goal to get on the board before the break and getting the football first in the second half. Not there defensively, as Quinshon Judkins has scored his 2nd touchdown of the night. First on the ground, this one a reception from 6 yards out. As Will Howard continues possibly the best half of football in his entire Ohio State in collegiate career, just toying with the Notre Dame defense on that touchdown toss. Will Howard, 14 of 15, Kev, for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns, 6 carries for 26 yards. 4 of those 6 attempts picking up a first down and moving the sticks for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, the defense in 0 aspects of this game has stepped up. The Notre Dame offense came out, and their opening drive, you couldn't have wanted any more from that group.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame's defense held a little bit with on that drive. Ohio State made a couple of plays and scored on their opening drive. And then the Notre Dame offense went 3 and out and 3 and out. And this defense has been chasing their tail now every single play since. Will Howard looks like he can run for any first down that he wants, quite frankly. And Notre Dame reacted as such, which then 5 guys ran towards him, leaving Quinshon Judkins wide open. And the issue now for Notre Dame, Freeman has been excellent at the half of these football games. There's 27 seconds left.
Yeah.
You're down 14, and they get the football to start. The odds are, you will be down by 3 possessions before you get a real drive once again with your offense. So it's, panic time. It's not necessarily about that. Ohio State is right now minus 10,000 to win this football game.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say that that's an outrageous number. They're currently laying 20 and a half.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you that you should be running to bet Notre Dame. I think that would be misguided advice, quite honestly, here. I don't think that that's the MO.
Yeah, because at the half, if they come out and score, right, you're probably going to be catching 23.5, 24.
Maybe,
depending upon what they have.
Right.
You got to believe that they, again, total we sit at 50.5. That's as high as I took it with the alt, right? I can tell you right now, I'm looking at it, it was plus 154. I think we still have tons. I mean, if you don't want to back aside because of the value, I think the best way to go right here at halftime is the total. And the reason why I say that is 50.5 national championship game. You're going to look to score. If you're Ohio State, you're not going to take your foot off the gas. Why? There's no reason to, right? I'm just saying.
No, but I'm watching Notre Dame now. Look, the first play went for 7 yards. If you're going to do this, don't run a play. I hate this stuff. It bothers me to no end.
I do believe at times football teams, pro and college, do not value possessions enough. And Notre Dame, had they decided to take a knee, would say, listen, we got to get into the locker room, and I get that. But to go and pick up 7 yards, you have 2 timeouts, right? You're now at the 32-yard line. While it is unlikely you are going to get points, well, why did you just run a play then?
Right.
Why?
What were you expecting there? A screen pass to Bo Collins that goes for 35-plus yards, and then you call a timeout with 9 seconds left to take another shot? That, very interesting. But we are at the half of tonight's national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame. The Buckeyes ahead by 2 touchdowns, 21-7 at the break. It was Notre Dame early on its opening offensive possession, an 18-play, 75-yard, 9-minute and 45-second drive to score a touchdown first. It's been all Ohio State since. The first time trailing in the college football playoff for the Buckeyes. They answer with 21 straight. Halftime in Atlanta. Up next.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Minutes down to tonight's national championship game between Ohio State and Notre Dame, and the Buckeyes in full command here at the break. They lead 21-7 over the Fighting Irish. Our live numbers here at the half as we welcome you basically to a College Football Today halftime show on In-Game Live Game Day. A 20.5-point spread in favor of Ohio State. Nearly 3 touchdowns. The Buckeyes laying now at this halftime break. The total 49 and a hook. Lisi Guy, Notre Dame, on its opening offensive possession of this game, 18 plays, 13 on the ground, 75 yards, 9 minutes and 45 seconds, resulting in a Riley Leonard touchdown. From there, it's basically been all Ohio State. The Irish defense not having many answers. What did you make of the opening half in Atlanta?
Well, again, I still think Notre Dame, if they're committed to the run, can run the football. The question remains, when they get the football back, are they going to be down 2 scores or are they going to be down 3 scores? Because that'll take the potential rushing attack out of the equation for much of the fourth quarter if they're trailing by double digits. The biggest thing right now is from an offensive perspective, if they do get the football back down 14, right? If their defense can make some adjustments and get a 3 and out right before half, you got to get Riley Leonard into a rhythm in terms of the passing attack. That doesn't mean you can't run the football. I just think they need a little bit more offensive balance, maybe some screens. You got to get, obviously, your wideouts, Greathouse and Faison involved.
Yeah.
We haven't seen them involved outside the opening drive. So, again, if they could do that, cut this deficit down, even at this point, second half, 21-10, you're in the game. You can make adjustments. I will say this, halftime number, if we're just looking at the numbers, it's worth to take a shot, and I know I'm not saying they win the game, but at 20.5, I do believe more in Marcus Freeman making second half adjustments as opposed to Ryan Day, where playing with the lead sometimes it gets a little bit tight. There's a different animal in terms of Notre Dame. I do believe they're going to come out with some momentum. Now can they capitalize?
Yeah, the Notre Dame defense out of half has been great.
Great.
3 and out against Indiana. Georgia's first play was a first down, and then it was 3 and out. Penn State went 3 and out. The only touchdown that they've given up in the third quarter was to Georgia on the big play to Cash Jones. So that's the only point that they allowed. The Penn State, they bottled up for the entirety of that third quarter.
Correct.
So I think that's where we have ourselves now. For me, a little bit of a tricky game to figure out because Ohio State's offense has been excellent, but Ohio State's offense has not been explosive. Meaning, in the same way that Notre Dame's first drive was fun but maybe difficult to replicate, what Ohio State is doing is very easy to replicate. When you go out there and you just score 75-yard touchdowns, like, well, that's going to fall apart eventually.
Yeah.
Just throwing to wide open guys for 7-8 yards at a time. Like, for Will Howard to have these pass catchers, 1 incompletion, and at 9.6 yards per attempt, hear me out, is not great. Everything's all. My point is, this isn't explosive. It's whatever is directly in front of me, and we'll just go that way. Like, he has 1 incomplete pass and only has 1 completion of 20 yards, and it was for exactly 20 yards. Think about the Ohio State highlights that you've watched throughout the CFP throughout the season.
Yeah.
40, 50, 60 yards down the field, right? Heck, he throws the ball to Trevion Henderson 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and it goes 75 to the house. So that's very difficult because for Notre Dame, it's, all right, what's our adjustment? Like, threaten them to throw it deep?
Right.
Threaten them to take 50, 60-yard air shots? That's an odd adjustment or challenge to present. You know you have to heat up Howard more. You have to. Again, it's like, okay, well, then we'll just go one-on-one, and he has to get the football out very quickly. I mean, that probably can be adjusted to. It's a very tough spot Notre Dame is in.
Yeah, I was just saying, looking at the props, are we attacking – forget the Ohio State for a second.
Yeah.
There's great value across the board for Notre Dame. Like, do we believe Jadarian Price is not going to get 7 yards on the ground? I mean, his adjusted number, he's got 11 yards. 17.5 is his in-game total.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that's my point. I mean, the Faison is 12.5. Greathouse is 10.5. We're talking about – now, it's possible that they get blown out, but you're telling me we're not going to have any offensive output for Notre Dame in the second half at all?
Yeah, I think the reason for those numbers is they are not expecting many run plays.
But you're still going to have some offensive balance. And Price is the better receiver coming out of the backfield.
I think that's such a difficult thing, Joe, and I think it's because if the opening possession is a touchdown, it's now 21.
Right.
So Notre Dame might say, okay, we're going to have a balanced play sheet, we're going to go quickly. If that is a non-productive drive,
they go back to the run.
Notre Dame,
the
next time they go out on the field,
right?
So
Down 21.
No.
You punt.
I'm saying 3 and out, 14-point game. They get the football back.
Yeah.
Now they might go back to the run.
Yeah,
You're telling me we can't bust a 6-yard run, 7-yard run?
You certainly can. I'm not. But we're just talking about like, hey, how does this number get to this point in time?
Right.
Like, okay. Well, then why are the pass catching numbers so low? Well, I mean, Leonard has 2 games of 200+ yards, maybe 3 on the season. There's not an elite pass catcher on the offense. There's not. Well, all right. Well, that's where the ball's going to go.
Yeah.
So everything is spread out even. Now it does present opportunities, right? I think more tempting options, Lisi, is alts. In fact,
right,
because everything's such a low start. Like instead of taking, Jadarian Price for 7 yards, well, can we take him for 14 yards and get 2-1, 3-1?
Right.
Like who hits the explosive play for Notre Dame is a great question.
25+ for Jadarian Price in terms of his updated rushing yards number here at the half is plus 220. Jeremiah Love has 1 total yard in the opening half. For him to get to 25+, that is plus 230. For Riley Leonard to lead this back through the air for Notre Dame, he's got 46 in the opening half. His live number at the break, 135 and a hook. But when you look at the offensive stats in this first half in Atlanta, Ohio State has 231 total yards to 93 for the Irish. 15 first downs for Ohio State, only 6 for Notre Dame. And Kev, you said this, it will be critical for the Irish to generate a stop defensively. Ohio State is perfect, 6 for 6 on third down. The halftime report continues next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid. Monday, Ohio State looks to overcome the luck of the Irish as Notre Dame eyes the trophy.
I can't even contain myself.
SportsGrid has you covered for the national championship. Start with Coast to Coast at 3 p.m., followed by game time decisions for last-minute picks. And stick around for in-game live all night for real-time betting action. Stay tuned to SportsGrid, your home for championship coverage.
As you have probably seen in every game, but certainly in college football, the question begs at the half, what adjustments are going to be made in those locker rooms? Ohio State leads 21-7 after the first half in Atlanta, now 30 minutes away from the program's first national championship since 2014. But can the Fighting Irish do exactly that and put up a fight in these final 30 minutes inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Live number at the break, 20.5 in favor of the Buckeyes. Our live total at the half is 49 and a hook. You see those numbers there on the screen. Ohio State, a minus 20,000 favorite just to hold on and win this game outright and hoist a national championship trophy. Of course, Lisi Guy, we'll start with the team that is trailing here at the half. What is the biggest adjustment that Marcus Freeman needs to make for the Fighting Irish in these next two quarters?
Well, defensively, I think they have to sell out, utilize different types of blitz schemes on that offensive line. That's the first thing, because they can get him in third down. But when they get him in third down, he has all day to throw, and those corners are getting abused by Mbuka and Jeremiah Smith on the outside. They have the out pattern is there on almost every pass play. You have to change that up. You have to get Will Howard off his mark. You have to utilize different types of schemes in front seven looks. They have to change it up somehow. And maybe they start changing it up in terms of the back end as well. Zone to man and do it quickly, right? In terms of that. You can do it, but you have to out scheme. And that's the thing. We've seen him do it against, I want to say, one-dimensional offenses. Indiana, Penn State, right? Where they had the edge at particular times. They have an elite quarterback right now playing at an elite level. I'm not suggesting Will Howard is what it is right now. One of the hottest quarterbacks in college football. What do you do to disrupt the timing? Biggest thing for them, try and force a turnover on this drive. You've led the FBS in terms of one of the top takeaways. Now's the chance to prove it. But again, I still think they're in this game. I know they're getting blown out from the second quarter on, but at the end of the day, they're one play away from changing the whole momentum. It starts right now coming out of half.
Yeah, the number that I think I'm going to go for, it's this upcoming Ohio State drive to reach Notre Dame's 20-yard line. The no is plus 105, which is a lot of breathing room.
Yeah.
Right? Now, you could get the 50-yard line at plus 190, but Ohio State, I imagine, will do what, and I think they did this during other playoff games, but the most recent fresh example for me is what Harbaugh did for Baltimore against Pittsburgh, where the opening drive of the second half was like a 4th and 2 at the 50, obvious go, but they're like, they can't do anything, and punted. You could get a non-analytic pleasing punt. You can get a field goal because that becomes 3 possessions. There's value in that. So I'm going to look at a plus 105 number on this Ohio State drive to not cross the Notre Dame 20.
And it is critical that Notre Dame does exactly that. Ohio State has ran 33 plays in the opening half for a total of 231 yards. Yeah. 3 offensive possessions have all resulted in 3 touchdowns. And, by the way, the 2 most juiced Ohio State players to find the end zone tonight, Jeremiah Smith, minus 135, touchdown. Quinshon Judkins has 2 for Ohio State, 1 on the ground and 1 receiving. He was minus 105 to hit pay dirt as well. It is crucial for this Notre Dame defense that has taken the football away to maybe do that, but certainly get a stop here as Ohio State will get the football first to start off the third quarter. Kev, if you are up by 14 and the Buckeyes in full command, what do you think that offensive philosophy is for Ohio State out of the break?
Yeah, that is a very good point, or question rather. I imagine that they are going to want to be aggressive in their play calling because what a touchdown, you would imagine, ends the football. Yeah. Right? You are up 21 against a team whose team total is 14.5 with a lot of plus towards that over, right? You'd be in a very, very favorable position there. They have done a nice job, Ohio State, taking what is being given to them, right? So I think the challenge for Ohio State is, can you not get bored? Are you satisfied? 5 yards, 6 yards, 13 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards, 6 yards. Yeah. We're good. Like, can they stay in that MO there? But it's a very balanced play sheet for Ohio State.
I took a shot. The commitment to the run, should they get a 3 and out, I jumped on Price for 40 and Love for 50.
It would be key, again, for Notre Dame defensively to make a stand. And then the Fighting Irish back in this football game. They have been great to start second halves. We'll see the response in just a few out of the Fighting Irish, the national championship game.